Hello! So, today we talk about my TBR for December. So this month I am participating in a couple of readathons, as always. So I will, of course, break up everything through those readathons as I talk about what I want to read this coming up month, and I will have all the information for each readathon linked down below as well. So the first readathon that I want to talk about, this is one that I started last month. It is taking place from November and December. I did actually end up making it work to get through everything I wanted to for November for this one. So now I'm going to move on to the ones that I plan on reading next month. So the first one is to complete the shortest book on my TBR, and for that one I'm going to be finally picking up The Tribulations of August Burton. So we follow August Burton, who is dealing with a bunch of anxiety in his freshman year of college. A lot of stuff is going on, including his parents being divorced, and all he wants to do is kind of hold up in his room and enjoy all of the Star Wars collectibles and textbooks that he has, but his used-to-be prostitute grandmother Gertie refuses to let that happen, and from what I can tell, just crazy hijinks ensue. Next, to read a book that has been on my shelf the longest. I have so many I could have easily chosen for this one, but I really want to try and actually finally read this, and that is Bright Smoke and Cold Fire by Rosamund Hodge. I'm pretty sure it's a Romeo and Juliet retelling. I know I'm gonna like it. I just keep putting it off, and every year I say I'm going to read it and then I never do. So hopefully this will actually be the year that I get to this. Next was to read a magical or fantasy book, and for that one I'm going to be choosing A Curse So Dark and Lonely. This is another retelling, but it is Beauty and the Beast this time. I know this series is really well loved, and I know that third book I think is supposed to come out next year, and I really want to finally start this series and get into it. Next was Your Most Expensive. Wasn't quite sure what I wanted to pick because I'm a very cheap book buyer, so I had to pick one that was a brand new buy, and that is Chosen by Kiersten White. This is the sequel and I believe the last in the Slayer duology, if I'm not mistaken. I love Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I've mentioned that a ton of times on here already. I love the first book. I'm excited to see what's going to happen in the second one. Next was Prettiest Cover. For this one, any could work, but I'm gonna go with the one that always kind of pulls my eye in because of the colors, and that is Defy the Worlds by Claudia Gray. The sequel to Defy the Stars, I believe I read last year, and I loved it. I really enjoyed it a lot. It is a crazy sci-fi adventure, and I enjoyed every single second of it, so I'm excited to continue on with this series. Next was a magical book, and for this one I am going to be going with Of Curses and Kisses. This is, I believe, another Beauty and the Beast retelling, but it is more of a contemporary meets fantasy story, and I just know I'm gonna like it. And then it is a book that is blue or has water themes, if you can tell from the theme of my TBR so far. Blue is my December theme every year. I don't know why that is. For this one, I am going to be going with Instant Karma by Marissa Meyer. This is her new contemporary release where our main character is very easy to judge people and ends up one day waking up with the ability to grant instant karma onto anybody she wants. And then the last two that I have for this readathon, the next is either a pre-order, a sequel, or a library book. And for this one, I'm going with Worst Best Man by Mia Sosa. I'm picking this one because I'm going to be listening to the audiobook through my library, and our main character, who is a wedding planner, and she ends up being left at the altar, and the guy she was going to marry, his best man, she ends up being stuck with, going to some work thing that they have to do together. I honestly don't know. I just know I'm gonna enjoy it. And then the final is a shiny cover or a magical object. For this one, I'm definitely going to be picking the shiny cover part, and I'm choosing Once a King by Erin Summerell. It's hard to see on camera, but I swear that is shiny foil on the front of it. This series is always gorgeous. This is a spin-off of the Ever the Hunted duology, which I love, and it follows a character that I really enjoyed from that series as well. So I've been putting this off for so long, and I really want to finally get to it. So the next readathon is the Disney Channel Games readathon. I had to jump into this one as soon as I heard the title because I definitely remember watching the Disney Channel Games. I am part of Yellow Team. This readathon takes place between January, ready for the new year. This readathon takes place between December 6th and December 20th. This one, unfortunately, I'm nervous about, but I'm excited for. Each prompt is going to take place over the matter of 3 days, so you have to read the book for that prompt in those few days, as well as complete a challenge. The first one was a random letter, and for this one I did actually use the random letter generator and got this. So I ended up getting the letter C, and I'm going to be using Of Curses and Kisses. I'm kind of ignoring the of part of that and considering it part of the or a, and so I will be using Of Curses and Kisses. The next was to read a book that was recommended. This is one that I'm going based off of the fact that I saw this cover around for so long, and I'm going to be picking The Worst Best Man. Then our next prompt is to read a book that is action-packed. For this one, I'm picking one that is definitely going to fit this prompt, and that is Volume 3 of My Hero Academia. Continuing on with this series that is always action-packed, especially since Volume 2 ends off in the beginning of like a battle that's happening. Then it was to read a book with a water feature. This could be on the cover or in the story in some form. It was actually really difficult. For as many blue books as I have this month, only one has water on it, and that was Warrior Witch by Daniel L. Jensen. This is the third book. I believe it's a trilogy, but I think there's a fourth book still. I think I said this last time I mentioned this book. I don't know, but I loved the first two books in this series. Excited to see where this continues and how the story kind of wraps up. And then the final prompt was a buddy read. For this one, I'm going to be doing Team Yellow's buddy read because it was already on my TBR for the month, and that is A Curse So Dark and Lonely. As soon as I saw this was the buddy read for Team Yellow, I knew it was meant to be. And then the final readathon that I will be doing this month is the Reindeer Readathon. This one will be taking place the entire month of December and is also a team-based readathon as well. I am going to be part of Team Mistletoe. The first prompt is Dasher, or a one-word title. I'm going to be finally picking up Winter Song. I know this is another troll-based story from what I remember, The Goblin King, and it is one that has been on my radar for a while. It is also very wintry themed, so I think it's going to be a good choice for this month. Next was Dancer, and for this one you had to read a companion or sequel. I'm going to be using Warrior Witch for that as well. Like I said, is the third book in this series. Next is Prancer, or a book that has a map in it. I was not expecting this book to have a map in it, but when I started going through my TBR to determine which ones did, this one surprised me and actually had a map in it because my brain is thinking it's a full-on contemporary and it has fantasy elements. Of Curses and Kisses does have a map on the inside, so I will be using that for this prompt. The next one is Vixen. For this one, you could either read a book that has a fox in it, or if you didn't want to choose that one for a little bit less points, you could read a book with a strong female lead. Since none of the books I wanted to read this month had a fox related to it in some way, I'm going with the strong female lead one because that is always an easy choice. And for that one, I'm going with Chosen by Kirsten White. Next was Comet, which was to read an intimidating read, because I wanted to combine this with another prompt called Christmas Star, which you had to combine with a prompt and read a book that is over 500 pages. So to combine these two, I went with Lover Avenged. This is the next series in the Black Dagger Brotherhood, which is over 500 pages and is intimidating to me because it's always hit or miss with this series, and I really want to enjoy this next book. Next is Cupid, and that is to read from a genre that you love. For this one, it was pretty easy to just pick a romance, and I'm going with Worst Best Man for that one. Then we have Donner, which is to read a book with something hidden inside. For this one, I am going with Once a King. The beginning of the chapters are really gorgeous and have this beautiful border on them. The next prompt is Blitzen, or a book with some sort of struggle. For this one, I'm going to be going with Instant Karma by Marissa Meyer. I can only assume that this is going to be a struggle, as we're following a main character that is very judgmental. And then the final main prompt is Rudolph, which is to read about a main character that doesn't fit. This is literally described in the description of this one, so I just had to pick it, and that is Spare and Found Parts. This is a story about a world where people have mechanical parts. Due to an epidemic, everybody has missing parts in some form, and while most people have something replacing an arm or a limb of some sort, our main character has her heart replaced. There is one more prompt for this readathon you don't have to complete, but you can, and that is Slaying It. If you complete all of those prompts that I have listed, then you can add one more book to a prompt and get a few more points. I want to see if I can complete these prompts first before I say I'm going to do that, and once we get to that point, we'll see what book completes that. I do have have a few more books that I want to try and read this month as well that are not related to these readathons. The first two I'm pretty sure I'm going to get through really quickly. First being Reindeer Boy by Cassandra Jean. I just hauled this last month, and it is a graphic novel following a girl who every Christmas Eve always has a dream of a little boy with a present for her, and when she wakes up on Christmas there's actually a present there. And then one year a new transfer student shows up who has horns on his head. The next is Broken Prince by Erin Watt. This is the sequel to Paper Princess, which if you saw my wrap up, I'm still iffy on how I feel about this series, but I'm still gonna continue it because I want to know what happens next. And then the last two I probably won't get to this month, but I'm gonna throw them on here anyways, and that is Key of Light by Nora Roberts. I have yet to pick up a Nora Roberts book, and in the span of a couple of weeks, I had multiple people recommending me books by her. I know this follows our main character who is about to lose her job and ends up being invited to some fancy party. It's only 3 people that were actually invited to this party, and the host of the party is actually challenging them. So if they can open this box, has the souls of 3 different demigoddesses in it, then they will get $1 million each. And then the final book is just one that I keep putting on my December TBR and never getting around to, and that is Spinning Starlight by R.C. Lewis. I know it's supposed to be a retelling of The Wild Swans, which I don't know much about, but I'm excited to get into this, and hopefully this will be one that I finally pick up this month. Those are all the books that I plan on reading in the month of December. Like I said, all the information for the readathons will be listed down below. Let me know what you're reading this month, what readathons you might be participating in, if you're participating in any of these. Also, if you've read any of these books, let me know down below your thoughts. I would love to know which ones I should move higher up on my list for this month if you've read any of these. Yep. And they just fell. That's everything. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.